to their Shabbat Beit Sefer for their Shabbat school today. But if you want more information on it, just reach out to us. We'll make sure that we give it to you. All right. Just to give you a reminder. So if you are coming to the meetup, we're going out to get some fresh fruits today on the way down. I have a little cutting board and everything, so it'll be fresh cut, prepared, and everything. We'll have some stuff to make sure that everybody can be clean and we can cleanse whatever we're using. We're praying that the weather cooperates, but even if it does not, they have a place where we're going where you should be fine. I think there's a charge, like a $5 charge, to be able to get to the parking lot where we're going to be parking. However, we'll try to help out with that if you need help for your family, just to give you a heads up. So if you come out and you say, oh man, they said it's a $5 parking charge and I wasn't ready for all that, we will make sure that we help out with that. Amen. All righty. So just to give you guys a heads up. But thank you guys for being on. We appreciate you. Let's go ahead and get in for today, get into today. Once again, Barak Allah Shem Yahava, may the blessings of Yahava be upon each and every one of you. And we appreciate your heart. We appreciate your presence. Thanks for pressing through with us. Shabbat Shalom. Once again, it is the 7th day of the Gregorian calendar. Our Shabbat starts on Tuesday evenings right now for this month. On the biblical calendar, on the Israelite calendar, but nevertheless, Shabbat Shalom to you. We appreciate you, and thanks for spending some time with us. Let's say hello real quick, and let's get into today's message. How you doing, Sister Consuela? Hold on. Got a lot of people that came on. All right, Sister Consuela, Sister Toya, Sister Nadine, Sister Renee, Big Brother Thomas, Jenny, Brother Alton, Romac, Charletta, Molly, and thank y'all for the love. Appreciate it. Oh wow, Jenny, I'm sorry. I might have messed up there. I'll try to figure that out. Please send me a reminder if I don't get back to you soon. Please send me a reminder. How you doing, Lavarius? You glad to see I haven't dyed my locks? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've noticed people dyed them. I don't know how I do or don't feel about that, but yeah, I haven't dyed them. Even though I got something in it right now. Now that you say that, I look too. Don't know what this is. But anyways, you said, what is the name Alacham being spoken of here? It's not a name, it's a title. It's what the title of the Most High is. So his name would be Yahweh. Some people would argue dialect Yahweh, Yahuwah, but Alacham is the original pronunciation. Before we got to Elohim, it was Alacham. So that's what we're talking about here. How you doing, Brother Alton? How you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? How you doing, Sister Deja? How you doing, Sister Monica? If I miss your name, church, to my head and not to my heart. How you doing, Fatal Pros, King? Everybody who's on here, appreciate it. Okay, thank you, appreciate it, Jenny. How you doing, Sister Mignon? Amy, everybody. If I miss your name, church, to my head, not to my heart. Leslie, Stephen, everybody. As a reminder, those who are doing minister and training, we're gonna start today at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time. You might even be caught up a little bit in our meetup stuff. That's fine, but so I had to do double duty. It might not be a long first meeting, but we'll at least be able to get the stuff down. So appreciate y'all. But yeah, just as a reminder, 6 p.m. today. Normally we'll do it at 5. Had to move it to 6 just because we had to make sure that we did our meetup today, which we had to move from last week. So a reminder to you guys as well. How you doing, Keisha Foster, everybody, C. Lewis, everybody who's coming on, David, Damar. Alrighty, so let's jump right in. Hello, Sister Knight. So today, what we would like to talk about is separation. Now, I make sure that I say this all the time when we talk about separation, because it is what it is as far as this conversation is concerned, where people automatically think I'm talking about segregation, right? People automatically go to a place. Here's one of these Hebrew Israelites who are doing the reverse racism thing. That's what the first thing comes to people's minds. But when I say separation, I'm talking about separation even starting in the mindset, right? And thanks for the love. Appreciate it. How you doing, Diavaz? How you doing, Lioness? When I say separation, watch this. Sin separates us from the Most High, correct? I think that's pretty easy for us to see that sin represents us from the most, I'm sorry, separates us from the Most High. If you sin, right? Sin, we did a whole thing for the 40 days we were doing before, right? Get removing the leaven from our home before we got to Passover, right? This year. And we were talking about sin separates us from Yah. And so we've gotten rid of the leaven to separate the leaven from our home. The word house in Hebrew also doubles for the word family. Whatever's in one's home is going to pretty much be in one's family, right? So it is in our culture and a tradition that's there. It's a biblical tradition that tells us that we are supposed to remove the leaven from our home, right? And so we did that, and we were, in essence, leaven represented sin. A little leaven can cause the whole, loaf, so to speak, to rise, right? So a little leaven raises the whole, all the bread. So we were trying to make sure that we had a mindset for 40 days. Let's get rid of as much sin as possible. And yes, so there's some health things that go with that, of course, as well, right? So we made sure we had that mindset of sin. Sin causes us to be separated from Yah, and it causes us to get puffed up, but we don't want to be separated from Him. But here's the other thing about separation. If sin, which is basically trying to make sure that we are in the world, so to speak, in the system, in the beast, doing what they say, agreeing, and making sure that everybody likes what we're saying, etc. If that separates us from the Most High, then another thing that happens is that if I'm in the kingdom of heaven, I must be separated from the world, right? Hey, how you doing, Sister Tracy? Barak Allah, Shem Yahweh. All right. Barak Allah, Achiyat, Tracy, right? So if sin, and thank you for the love. So if sin separates me from the Most High, which is coming out of the kingdom, then being with the Most High separates me from the world. One of the things, probably not surprising to you all, one of the things that you might miss is that, or one of the, let's say, the missing ingredients for many people on their walk is the lack of separation. The lack of separation. There are certain things that do not mix in the kingdom, right? There are certain things that you should separate, right? I don't know if this is going to make sense to anybody, but I'll try to use this analogy, or try to use this to help you out as far as the homiletical structure. If I buy a cupcake from the store, right? Let's say I go and I get a cupcake. The cupcake has to be separated from the wrapper before I eat it, right? I mean, you could eat the wrapper, but just because the wrapper is on the cupcake and even has formed and shaped to where you can see the ridges, a sign that the cupcake was in the wrapper, it doesn't necessarily mean that the wrapper is edible. I don't know if this is going to make sense to somebody, but we'll start off here, right? So just because I have something wrapped in something, or just because it came in plastic before I even got to the wrapper, it doesn't mean that I should eat the plastic or the wrapper, right? How you doing, Sister Sherry? Just because I found the cupcake or purchased the cupcake and it came wrapped up doesn't mean that the things that it came wrapped in should be ate, right? Amen. How you doing, Sister Monica? We have a problem because a lot of people are trying their best to eat the plastic wrapping and try to eat the wrapper, because they say you got to love the whole presentation to be able to get to the cupcake. But see, the cupcake that you're trying to eat is not the wrapper. It is not the plastic. It might have been attached to it, right? Right. But it's not the wrapper. It might have been formed in the wrapper, but it's not in the wrapper, right? It might have been conformed to it. You can see that it still has signs that it came out of something, right? That is not edible, but it does not mean that you're going to eat certain things with it. In order for me to have that cupcake, right, and to enjoy it correctly, even the person who put it in the wrapper and put it in the plastic realizes that if I'm going to eat the cupcake and get everything out of the cupcake I'm supposed to get, at some point, right, the cupcake must be removed. Come on, Yeshua, the true King of Earth. I see you, right? At some point, The cupcake must be removed if I'm going to enjoy it, if it's going to be edible, if it's going to fill me up, if I want to be able to serve it to somebody else, right? Even my child who might love the cupcake, it might be their first cupcake, they tasted pieces of it. I tell them this is what a cupcake is. They're so excited. They like the way it looks. They like the color. Maybe they like the icing, all that stuff. But all those things that are there, they should not be ate. It could have a birthday candle in it. You might put a birthday candle in it to celebrate somebody's birthday or their born day, and everything seems to be cool. But we have to remember, right? Ola, you said it. You have to remember that in all these things that are going on, that this cupcake, it's not to be, or I'm sorry, the candle can't be ate, the plastic can't be ate, the wrapping can't be ate. Now somebody says, well, yeah, that's simple. I'm with you. You wasted my time, right? But the problem is that here comes the kingdom. Here comes the message. Here comes the word. Here comes a culture, right? And we keep trying, because we've seen things that have shaped it, trying to say, well, if it shaped it, we must eat it, right? But just because something's been affected, has been the effect or the cause of something, that we see some effects on the kingdom that we're supposed to eat, on the whole scroll. Revelation chapter 10, right? Eating the whole scroll. We see there's some things that might have affected the scroll that we're about to eat, but it doesn't mean that we should eat everything that came around it. We shouldn't eat the candle that was put in it, right? There are some things that you ate or some things that came with the word, so to speak. Now it shouldn't. Here. Hopefully, you get the context. I'm not saying that we should take everything in. See, because we try to take in everything. We try to take in. Look, those of you who use Reiki and things like that, there's multiple members who know about that and use it. Especially if you're a massage therapist, there's some things in Reiki that are great, but there's some things that come with it that are not. And so, just because you are having something and getting a kingdom sense now, and some of those things came with you learning about Reiki, doesn't mean that you should eat everything out of Reiki. See, we live in a society where everybody's trying to do yoga and doesn't think about the fact that yoga comes with some things. And am I saying you can't stretch out? Am I saying that you can't even learn the fighting techniques of yoga? Yes, there are actually fighting techniques. Am I saying those things? No. What I'm saying though is that that they have a saying in yoga that says, in yoga there is no yoga. This is what said, that without yoga there can be no Hindu. Without Hindu there can be no yoga. So you've got to recognize there are certain things and certain forms and certain shapes and certain places that you shouldn't necessarily be thinking about and trying to bring into the kingdom. There has to be some kind of separation. That was you got some principles out of that, right? You're getting into the word, you're getting towards the cupcake, and yes, the wrapper and everything around it looks great, but you got to realize that just because the wrapper even shows the lines on the cupcake, it doesn't mean that that wrapper should be there. I hope somebody's catching what I'm saying, right? How you doing, Sister Latoya? How you doing, Truth? Right? All right, how you doing, Brother Allen? I think. Uh, see, and how you doing, Robin? Amen. Let's get to this word. Let's get it if we need it, right? How you doing, Brother Ali? Right? There are some things that we're carrying because we do not separate. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for your help this rising, because I did not have the cupcake thing within me, but prayerfully that's making sense. Thank you for the love. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? Right? Shabbat Shalom to you, Sister. Shabbat Shalom, uh, Yadamana, right? You said it? Oh, uh-oh. You got some rain going on? Okay. Interesting. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. So there's some things that you might be carrying and you have not separated from. Did you catch that? There might be some things that you were carrying. You and I might be carrying some things. See, we're carrying some ways that we treat our children. We still whipping children because you whip them because you love you. You say you whoop them now, but you whip them because you love them. Why? Because overseers allowed the parents to whip them instead of them. And so even though they didn't deserve lashes that would leave marks on their back, they said to go ahead and make sure that we keep the parents of a mindset that they're supposed to denigrate the children and make sure that they look up to us and look down upon their own children. We'll have them whip them, and we still carry. I'm not saying you cannot spank or discipline your child. I believe that if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. However, I also believe that you shouldn't necessarily be going out here and finding a tree and braiding the branches together and using that, right? Calling it a switch. And if your child doesn't get the best switch, somebody know what I'm talking about. And if your child doesn't get the best switch or the switch breaks, or whatever the case might be, then all of a sudden you say, I'm gonna go ahead and find a switch, and if I find a switch, it's gonna hurt you more. I'm gonna whip you longer. I'm gonna whip you till you can't stand. See, these are things that we might be carrying, where it might be innocently done as far as your intent. However, it's not innocent at all. Shalom, Sister Elion. You said, so basically we can't fully see or accept the kingdom until we fast from certain things. Yeah, right? Until we separate, until we fast. We even talked about that recently in our 7Fs, right? I've got to fast or separate long enough to allow myself to even digest correctly. Did you catch what I'm saying? If I'm going to digest correctly, even when you're fasting, we talked about this too. Even when you're fasting, you're eating, right? Even when I'm fasting, I'm still eating. There's not a time that my body is not really eating, except for when it's sleep. And even when it's sleep, it's still breaking down what has been digested, so that when I get up in the rising, first thing I should do is not to eat, maybe get some water and stuff like that. But the first thing I should do is not to eat, but is actually to fast. Just because I get up doesn't mean I should break my fast, right? And you might have been asleep on some things, but you have been asleep, and even in being asleep, some things were being broken up. So now you're waking up to certain things, and you're waking up to certain principles, and you're waking up from certain beast-like principles and governmental principles, and realizing the United States is not a country but a corporation and a board and something that's publicly traded. You're waking up to what currency really is. You're waking up to the fact that money's not real. You're waking up to what marriage is. You're waking up to what the word says. You're waking up to who you are. And as you wake up to who you are, it doesn't mean that you should start necessarily eating right away. How you doing, Junior James? Rafiki, or Rafakai? Not sure how you pronounce it. You see, and so separation still needs to take place. Now, once again, let me say this again before somebody goes to a place. Up here go one of these people reverse racist. I did not say, hear what I'm saying? I did not tell you to that you must segregate, but you should separate. And you should not be surprised if you separate that you're not going to get rewarded by those you separated from. This might help somebody. This might bless somebody. This might help you to get another level out of this, right? See, if I separate from the world is not going to reward me. The world rewarded me because I did well in the world. Matter of fact, can I help you out a little bit? Yeah, pick the best fruit, right? Can I help you out a little bit? You are a ward of the world. You are a ward of state. You are a ward of their nation. You are a ward of their government. And when you get a reward, they're saying, because you've been done so well as a ward, we'll reward you. We'll give you something that helps you to feel more significant as a ward. Oh, no, nobody want to talk back to me. That's real. How you doing? User 766-2444-772-2451. Thanks for being part of the community, right? See, you get rewarded because you're a ward of that government, a ward of that beast, a ward of that state. How you doing, Dennis? You said, so separating from the world also means we have to let go of the benefits that come with dealing with them. Yeah. Now, there's some benefits that Caesar gives that Yah has no problems with. That's why you can render to Caesar what is Caesar's. But certain things, you got to give Yah what is his. And there has to be a point in your walk to where you say, what am I willing to separate from? If I'm going to be separate, if I'm going to have overcome the world, as Yahashua says, and I'm going to be a fellow heir in that walk, if he overcome the world, then I should be able to overcome the world. Oh, it's Cat? Okay. Right. So if he, sometimes different live sessions, it comes up as different names. All right. But thank you for that. I'll try to remember it best I can. All right. Thanks for being on though. So if he has overcome the world and I'm supposed to be a fellow heir in what he does, I've got to do what he does to overcome like he's overcome. Thank you for the love. So I've got to realize that if he was willing to separate and not get certain rewards, matter of fact, if he was willing to overcome and be talked about poorly, then I must be ready to be separated and therefore be talked about poorly. This is why in the Sermon on the Mount, and this is our sweet spot. We always use Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5. verses 10 through 12. He says, after he says, this is the last of the Beatitudes, after he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to you, right? Even if they say you don't know anything, guess what? You can still learn. The kingdom of heaven belongs to you. Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. We just talked about that yesterday. Let your love rain down, right? And we prayed yesterday together last night. Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, they shall be filled. You're getting empty calories, but start hungry and thirsting after righteousness so you can be filled. How you doing, DB? Matthew chapter 5, I don't remember. I don't know if I'm going in order now at this point anymore. Blessed are those who are humble, right? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the pure in heart, right? For they shall see the Most High, right? And then he gets down where he says, and blessed are you, when they revile you, they say all manner of evil against you, for Yehoshaphat's name's sake, for his reputation, for the sake of his authority, for his name's sake. He said, when that happens to you, you should rejoice and be exceeding glad. But why does he say it? He says, rejoice and be exceeding glad because they did the same thing to the prophets that came before you. Why did they do the same thing to the prophets? Why did they do what they did to the prophets? See, we forget that just because the prophets were of Israel doesn't mean that all Israel is Israel, and it doesn't mean that everybody around the world agreed with the prophets. So he said, if the prophets separated themselves, I want to go higher. If you go higher, that means that some people are going to stay lower. See, if you separate yourself, that means if I'm gonna go further in my walk, there's some people that are going to stay in the same place. If you're going to separate yourself, if you're going to learn what the culture is and how to speak the language, and somebody says the culture and the language doesn't matter, there's going to be some separation. If you're going to separate yourself, this is what marriage is. I stand on it no matter what. Somebody says, well, we don't care about marriage. Even it's a contract and it's something to get your money, even though if you know how marriage works, you can write your own contract, right? You can write a private contract. You can be private. You don't have to be part of the system. You don't have to keep being a ward of the state. You don't keep having to sign up for it. You can be separated. If you're going to go, right, if you're going to say that I'm going to love my enemy, somebody says that doesn't make sense. I only got love for those that got love for me, even though the Bible declares, Yehoshaphat himself says in Sermon on the Mount, now this is Luke chapter 6, but same Sermon on the Mount, he says, if you can only love people that got love for you, he said, what thanks have we? For you're the same as everybody else out there. You're the same as the enemy, the publican, all these people you swear that you cannot stand, right? He says you're going to be pure gold. There's some people that don't want to be tempted. The word tempted is talking about the process of making sure that there's a purification of the gold. If you're going to separate yourself, then you're going to have to deal with what comes with separation. My greatness. How you doing, sister? How you doing, Jen? Yeah, stop chasing those empty calories. Come on now. Now watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. If I'm going to separate myself, Yehoshua, Yeshua, Yahushua, Yahweh, Yehoshua, whatever dialect you're talking. I'm going as original as possible, right? Or at least from my studies. So Yehoshua, Hamashiach or Hamashiach the Messiah, he went to his own city where he was from, where he was born from, and yet he couldn't perform any miracles. You guys remember that, right? The Messiah goes back to where he was raised, so to speak. And he goes back to his own people, and his own received him not. Now, that was Israel, but he also did that with his own city. He went back to where he grew up. Exactly. Well, watch this. It's not even because they didn't believe, right? Even though I'm with you, use the 766. I'm sorry. I forgot the name already. Please forgive me. It's coming up as use 766. You just told me what the name was. Forgive me. But it's not even just that. It's not even that they just didn't believe. Cat. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. It's not even that they just didn't believe, Cat. Watch this. It's that it says when you read it, right, and you see what happened, he was separated because they believed it and didn't like that he knew what they didn't know. When you go and read it, it says he came back and he preached the same message, and on his heart was to give him the same miracles and the same stuff. But but before he gave the miracles, he had to always make sure that you comprehended the kingdom. You had to be in the kingdom. You had to at least have kingdom principles, have a kingdom mindset, and open yourself up to the kingdom. And it says Yeah, they rejected him. But watch this. This is the part that blew my mind when I really got this. When I first got this, this blew my mind, right? It really opened up what we have to be ready for when we talk about separation and rejection that comes out of separation, right? It says that when they got to him, praise Yah, when they listened to him, he preached the same message. He preached the word. Everybody was so excited about the message until, because this is what it says. It says they were astounded. They were flummoxed. They were amazed at what he spoke. That's the same thing they did at the end of the Sermon on the Mount. They said that at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, they were amazed because he spoke not like a scribe or a Pharisee, but he spoke as one having authority. When he went back to his own city, it says that they were astounded and they were amazed. They knew he was preaching with authority, but then they started asking questions. The first question that they asked was this. They said, how is it that he got this knowledge? Uh-oh. They didn't say it was wrong at all. They did not say that they didn't believe it. They didn't say that he wasn't with the word. They didn't say that he didn't know the law, right? Yeah, they were jealous. They were covetous, and they were trying to figure out how is it that he got it? See, and it's a mindset. Watch this, because let's be empathetic. I try to be as empathetic as possible. He said they did not accept him because they knew him. Prophet not welcome in his own country. Yeah, even though he's not without honor. But peep what they said. They said, how is it that he got this knowledge? And then they started to say, isn't that just Mary's child? Isn't he the brother of Jonas and this person, that person? Didn't we know his daddy? Isn't he just a carpenter? But here's the part I want you to empathize with is that, see, this is why he starts off in Matthew 5:3, and he says, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. See, what used to be taught by the religious leaders was that, hey, they didn't know this, they didn't know that, you didn't know this, you didn't know that. How you doing, Leslie? You didn't know all these different things going on, you didn't know what was going on, and you're not as talented or as smart or as righteous, or you can't quote as many scriptures, or you don't wear the clothes that we wear, or you don't wear the colors that we wear, or you're not IUIC, or you're not part of this camp, or you're not SOC, or you're not this, and your pastor's not our pastor, and blah blah. And so when he and so they were so used to hearing that stuff, right? The same thing happened in this instance. Where he came from, nothing was supposed to come out of Nazareth that had any value, right? Y'all remember that? That was a saying. What can come out of the city that he came from? How you doing, brother? I'm sorry. Um, see, what can come out of that? That was the saying. They said, what can come out of this? They were always told their whole life that their city was trash. How did he get to be heaven when we're supposed to live in hell? How you doing, Savannah? Right? How did he get this heavenly stuff? How you doing, Vintage? How did he get this heavenly level of knowledge? How did he get this? They didn't say he was wrong. They were so busy saying, how did he get it? Now, if you just would listen long enough, maybe you comprehend that he got it because he's the Messiah. If you paid attention to him when he was 12 years old, right, you recognize that he got it because he was faithful. He would teach even when he was a little boy. You could see that he was asking questions nobody was asking about. If you saw what was going on when he came back to Israel, he came back with a bunch of stuff because people were looking for him for 2 years and finally found him in Kemet and bowed down. And many magi, many great men, many even magicians, right, who knew that he was supposed to come based off of even their culture and even the astrology that they had. They found him and they gave him many gifts. He came back different, but he came back. See, he separated. He was separate, and they didn't like the fact that he got some knowledge because he was separate. They had no problem with the knowledge. They actually agreed with it, but what separated them from the knowledge is what? Is the fact that he was separate, and they didn't like the fact that he didn't think like they did. See, they said, we grew up together. How is it that you think that that you can talk about the kingdom of heaven, but we were taught that we were supposed to live in the kingdom of hell simply because somebody else told us? And now you have rejected knowledge. And see, we get to a bad point because, see, my people, my nation, perish for a lack of knowledge. It is not because you have not been given knowledge, it is because you have rejected it. And since you have rejected intimacy or knowledge with me, thus saith the Lord, he says, I will reject you, even your children, even to the third and the fourth generations. Yeah, right. Some of you say I'm too ghetto, or I come from the ghetto, I come from the hood. And a lot of you, when you say I come from the hood, and y'all say I love the hood, I can't wait to go back. You don't even mean the persons in the hood, right? You actually mean that when you go to the hood, that you're talking about you like all the negative stuff because you don't see yourself as anything else. So now, even your hip hop stars, even though hip hop's not your culture, you're the face of it, but you don't own it, so it's not yours. I know you. I know you don't like that, but it's not yours. It's not. It's not yours if you don't own it. I know you think the ghetto is your culture or it's your city, but you don't own it, right? I know you think that gas station that be jacked up and all the stuff be all over the floor and that Dollar Tree where everything be all nasty smelling and everything when you come in there. I know you think that's your culture, right? But that's not yours. I'm not saying every Dollar Tree smell like that. Right? I'm not saying every gas station, but let's keep it a buck. We know how some of this stuff looks when you have people with a reprobate mind that be all over the place in these places, right? This is why some of you don't like the fact. I'm not saying that Walmart is righteous in their and what they're doing, and I'm not saying there's not any propaganda going on to make you think that everybody in Chi-Town is acting crazy or whatever, and therefore that's why their Walmarts are there. They did some of that stuff themselves, but we are not going to pretend that there weren't some people. I've been to that Walmart, and we're not going to pretend that some of those people in that Walmart were not acting a fool, right? But when you come in there and you look different, see, you should look different. You should sound different. When I come in and I'm in full regalia, right? And I'm not necessarily saying I even try to be in full regalia. I wear what I'm called to wear. But there's times that I come in there and I look regal in compare, especially in comparison to those that are trying to be common. See, I'm a king, and so kings don't have common sense, right? I'm Israel, and so Israelites do not have worldly sense. And so when I go in certain places, people look at me funny. They look at me strange. It's very interesting that people who want to pull me over usually look like me. It's very interesting when I'm walking out the store and somebody asks me for a receipt. I can be dressed from head to tail and stuff that people would say, or from the top of my head to the crown of my feet even, and people would say, "Man, you look really nice." But somebody who's there, usually who looks like me, will be the first person to say, "Hey, let me check your bag." You know why? Because hey, we're supposed to come from the same place. What makes you better than me? And it's not that I'm better than you; it's just that I've separated from you. Oh my greatness. How you doing, Sister Patricia? See, we're talking about separation today. It's not that I'm better than you, it's that I've separated from. Well, what do you mean you separated from me? We're family. We come from the same place. I saw you on the block. We had the same high school teachers. We speak the same language. This, that, no, no, no. See, when I separated from the world and you decided to stay in it, then it means that I had to separate from you. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I'm not praying for you. I pray for thee always. It's not that I'm not standing in the gap for you. It's not that I'm not willing to teach you. It's not that I'm not willing to give you the same thing. Matter of fact, if you get yourself together, maybe you can even come and live with me. But until you separate from the world, starting here, right? I beseech you, therefore, see, I beg of you, brethren, that you present yourselves a living sacrifice. That means be all the way alive in Yah, but start letting some of those things fall off to their death in in the world. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present yourselves a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable. That means you are holy. You're set aside. You're one with the Father. You're Allah, you're Aleph, right? I'm one with the Father, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service. I'm able to reason differently in my service to the Most High, right? Which is your reasonable service. And this happens through what? Being not conformed to the world. We talked about that cupcake earlier, right? I cannot eat the wrapper with the cupcake if I want to eat the cupcake. I need to take the wrapper off the cupcake if I want to eat the whole thing, the holy thing. I can't eat a piece of it and say, well, the wrapper's in the way, or start eating the wrapper and start choking and start having health hazards or start getting worms and stuff in me because I'm eating the wrapper rather than making sure that I'm eating the actual food item. My food, my comida, what I'm eating, right, must be what? Must be holy, must be sanctified. And so I've decided to separate myself from certain things. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. And not nothing against you. Nothing against you, Pop Pop. Uh-oh, this is where it gets hard. Yeah, we are transformed. See, nothing against you, but see, you're conformed. You're trying to eat the wrapper, but see, I had to be transformed. I had to come out of that. I see you, big donut. Right? See, I've got to separate. I've got to separate. It's not that I don't like you. But see, watch this. I can't be in church when I know that the word church means circus, cirque. I gotta remove myself from that. I can't be a Christian when there was no such thing as a Cristianos when the Bible was written. No offense to you, but if I follow the word, I can't be something that somebody's changing to make it comfortable for them. Yeah, food has lost its nutritional value. We talk about that a lot. It probably pop up some of the stuff we're talking about. How you doing, Skill Maine? How you doing? Right? See. So I've got to let. I know it comes wrapped in plastic. See, I know even watch this. And this is when it gets tough too, because some people are like, you should accept the whole me, right? But the whole you is not the whole you. You come wrapped in plastic, you come wrapped in the world, and you come with that cupcake wrapper around you. It's so close to you, and it seems like it's fresh. So you come with some issues, but you've got to remove the issues before you're edible. How you doing, brother TJ? Right? You got to separate yourself from some issues before you can be a husband. I mean, you can walk down the aisle, but it doesn't mean you were qualified before you walk down the aisle. You've got to start separating yourself. You have conformed to this world so much that you are not being transformed. See, form is important. The form is important, but are you conformed? Are you one with that form of the world? Are you transformed? Have you stepped out of the world? How do you become more than a conqueror if you think like the conqueror? A lot. Oh, see, you got to separate. You try to act like they act. Ak, okay, brothers, you got to stop coming in. Watch this. I was talking to a brother yesterday, and he was schooling me on some stuff because I am street smart to a certain degree. I'm not gonna act like I'm from the streets, but I'm street smart to a certain degree, right? I was talking to a brother, and he was giving me a little bit of testimony, and just kind of I was asking him some questions because when people start telling me things, I start picking their brain. He's an Israelite by faith, been walking the walk for a dozen years or so, and as we were talking, he was like, "Hey, in this walk, like." There's reasons why the FBI. I'm kind of just gonna put the whole conversation. I'm not gonna put everything out there or the person's name, but I'm gonna just kind of like give you a, a, a overall right quick synopsis of the conversation. I'm gonna give you some cliff notes. He said he was like, "Hey man, you know when you talk about Yahweh ben Yahweh, and I know people who walk with Yahweh ben Yahweh but won't tell you these things, but he said, you know that they got into drugs and drug trade and stuff like that. He said, you know that they were, he said, you know that there are Israelites in the early 2000s and stuff, and in the 2010s that were getting caught up in saying that they knew the word this and that or whatever, but they were actually prostituting girls and they were doing basically bride order, male bride order marriages and stuff like that. And they were doing it under the auspices of a dowry. Now, we believe a dowry to be holy and to be righteous, but basically, it's if you know about Lev Tahor, that's a Jewish one, but nevertheless, our people were doing the same thing. And he said, you know, some of our people are doing the same thing that the KKK does, but we just in the same way the KKK uses the Bible. And I'm aware of that to a certain extent, but he started giving me details and he started telling me stuff that really is going on in some of these camps. And I knew I was hearing some of the stuff, but I've never really lived in one of these camps. I've heard some of the sisters tell me their experiences, but even their experiences were not as far deep, but he was giving me details and helping me to add things together, and then gave me a rabbit hole to go down that I'm going down still right now. I'll probably be going down there for a couple of weeks before I even feel comfortable really talking about it. But I started realizing that, wait a minute. So when I hear the FBI and the CIA and they start talking about Black Hebrew Israelites, this and that, even though, yes, some of it is propaganda, I can't just say it's just only propaganda if my people are out here, supposedly my people, not all Israel is Israel, but hear what I'm saying. If my people are the one out here who are selling our women, and my people are the ones out here who are in the drug game, if you selling dope, right, you're just as bad as the person who put the dope in the community. If you know better and you say you're about the word, you hear what I'm saying? You're just as bad as those people, right? I've said this before. I'll say it again. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Look, why is it that you still look at as Snoop, Dre? Now, Dre supposedly wasn't in the streets like that, but neither was Ice Cube and other people like NWA. But Easy E was, right? Bone Thugs and Harmony was. And we shouldn't be surprised that these people not only are still doing things where they just make their living off of watching some of us die and only care about themselves, right? But now they do the same thing that some of the other devil worshippers do in Hollywood. Am I from Chicago? No, I'm not from Chicago. Well, I never lived in Chicago. I lived on the outskirts of Chicago. I lived closer to the Wisconsin border, right? Waukegan, Zion. I had jobs that I had to go through Chicago a lot, and I visited Chicago. I have family that's in Chicago, but I'm not really from Chicago, but I'm aware, right? I have family that knows all about Cabrini Green, right? And will tell you the horror stories and stuff, and how people, just in the hallway, you had to be careful when you went in the hallway, right? So I'm not from Chicago, right? But I'm aware of it, and I travel enough to our people to be able to still see our people's experiences in more than just one place. Is my heritage part of my heritage is Ghanaian? Part of who I am is Ghanaian. Yes, that's why my name is Kofi, and I decided to keep that name and not change it, as many people do change it, right? But hear what I'm saying, right? If I can just go ahead, there's a separation that must take place, and our people are coming in drug running, and then trying to drug run in the kingdom. Our people are coming in abusing women, selling them as sex slaves. Forgive my language, just for educational purposes, but you need to hear this. Selling them as sex slaves and then trying to marry them as sex slaves. No wonder that's all you see in her is 7-1. Yes, we baptize people as well. Acham Yahava, Acham Yahashvai, Acham Ravach HaKodash. Right? Aman. Right? They're coming in with a wicked mentality because they have not separated. See, you come in with a mind that is conformational, and then try to figure out why your people are not transformational. Now, you are transformational when it comes to um, music, as far as the style of music, but your your language. Watch this. You preach as you should in the corners, but you call people the N word and you call women the B word. Like, you teach. I've watched and listened to our brothers. As a matter of fact, if you know about the Yahweh ben Yahweh thing, right? IUIC, those brothers, right? The pastor over there, if you will, the pastor. I know that's not his title, whatever, but the pastor over there, he comes out of that. You come in with a worldly mentality, and then you accept, and some of you come in with a hateful, spiteful mentality. See, you come in just like the people who enslaved you. That's why you keep preaching you're going to enslave other people. You can't wait to keep telling people why you're going to enslave other people. You can't wait to tell people why somebody's going to be treated like property because you were treated like property. A lot of these brothers, can I be honest? A lot of them come out of, not only, if you come out of the dope game, a lot of the brothers are also coming out of jail, just like they did when they got a lot of brothers out and made them NOI. And I'm not saying anything bad about NOI. NOI does some great things as well. Hear what I'm saying though? A lot of people look for brothers and sisters who are lost, who are fed up, who nobody will help. And so what do you do in the NOI? Same thing you do with IUIC or any of this. And look, I don't want to talk real bad because IUIC, our brothers do some great things, right? I don't want to act like everything they do is wrong. I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. I'm just trying to show you how you got to separate. See, if I give you a uniform and nobody's ever loved you, but I give you a uniform, I give you some food, and I give you temporary shelter. And then I tell you that everybody who hated you is who you should hate. And everybody who enslaved you behind bars is who you're going to enslave and whip and put behind bars. This is where most people are coming from. They think this is knowledge. They think this is Yah's will. They think that, hey, a lot of white people, I'm using cultural and colonial language here, right? These constructs. A lot of white people did some bad things to us, and therefore we're going to do bad things to white people. That is ignorant. That's what a lot of people come in looking for. I'm just saying. I didn't say everybody now. I didn't say everybody, right? If the shoe fits, wear it, take it off. Or I'm sorry, if the shoe fits, wear it, wear it. Let me say, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it does not fit, take it off, right? If this isn't something that you're wearing, you don't have to wear it. If this is not something you're walking in, I'm not saying walk in it so you get bunions and stuff, right? Don't hurt yourself trying to wear something that you don't do. However, I'm not going to act like there's nobody who does this. Yeah, right? Truth is truth. I don't mind talking about racism because racism is a system, right? And racism is systemically put in place, and it does affect people adversely. By the way, it even affects poor white folk because they have to come into a belief that says that they're better than somebody who might even be doing better than them. So they have to take them down, right? It messes with everybody's mind, right? I get it. Racism is real on many different levels. It's not as simple as all white people are evil, all black people are great, right? Or all white people are evil and all Israelites are great. Or all people are evil and Israelites are the only ones that are going to get into the kingdom. The Bible does not declare that. I'm quick to tell you that, right? However, you're going to have to separate from the world in order to get that, truly. Amen, Sister Elizabeth. I see you, right? You're going to have to separate from the world. You cannot think like a conqueror. You are more than a conqueror, right? You cannot think like the first and second horsemen. You are more than that. How you doing, country girl? Thank you for the love. You are more than that, right? This is why this is not just a virtual thing, right? We know each other. We talk to each other. We're going to visit some of y'all right after this, right? On a regular basis, whether I'm there or not, we come together. We call each other. We talk to each other. We support each other. We support each other's businesses. We support the mission. We're trying to make sure that we're eating correctly. We're trying to grow our own food. Simple things, right? We don't just need our own building. We need our own food. We need our own land. If some of us will be content to get out of this world, and even if it took a couple years of living in the tent to build up a community to where we could just simply be free, right? And if you are not of Israel, you can be grafted in, Romans chapter 11. But we've got to get to a place where we separate. See, law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. Law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. That means that if you want the right to freedom, you have to have law to protect that freedom. I know you don't like that word law, but there's kingdom law, there's marital law, there's universal law. What does universal law mean again? Universe means what? Uni is one, verse means a sentence. So the universe is a single spoken sentence. What is that single spoken sentence? Or as you would say, in the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. That is the universe. And that's why by natural law, you cannot even patent anything that the Most High has created. You have to manipulate it in order to change it to patent it, because its original form always goes back to the Most High. This is law. But for some reason, you think that laws should not be followed and laws are not there to protect your rights. But you must protect your right. You must separate from this world. That means that you cannot be about world legality. You must be about kingdom law. Natural law is how heaven and earth was created. Earth without form and void, that's gas. Holy Spirit hovered upon the face of the water and the water split up, that's liquid. All of a sudden there's Raquaya up top and there was earth that rose up out the bottom. That's solid. This is law. This is law. And yeah, we out here tweaking, literally trying to tweak the word and not just letting the law be what it is. Matter of fact, this is why you need to realize who you are as far as legally. When people saying all this stuff about birth certificates, you better start paying attention to some of it. Now, some of it is not correct, but you better start at least paying attention to what this conversation is. Somebody says, "Oh, you guys are getting into that. Who cares about that?" But no, you need to realize by law, it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. Thank you, Jude. Appreciate you. All right, Sambo, how you doing? Right, by law, it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. You know this, right? If you fill out a DS-11 form for your passport, when you fill it out, you're supposed to fill it out if you're looking to be a non-citizen national. And somebody doesn't believe me, but you got to look at that paragraph that's in that first page that you're going to fill out of the 2 pages, and you're going to see in there the first sentence of that little box you're not supposed to fill out until the end, or you're not supposed to sign in until the end, that they're going to put your passport picture and all that in there before they send out your application. In that first line of that paragraph, it says, do you want to be a U.S. citizen or do you want to be a non-citizen national? And when you fill out the paperwork, you're going to have to fill it out declaring that you are not a U.S. citizen, nor does anybody. Matter of fact, you don't even declare you are not a U.S. citizen. You have to make sure that your mama, your daddy, and anybody you've ever been connected to in marriage, they are not U.S. citizens. Whether they think they're U.S. citizens or not, you have to declare it. Why? Because it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. That's law. And yet we don't talk about who we come from. People say it doesn't even matter who you come from. Now it's weird because Matthew chapter 1 and Luke chapter 3 are going to tell you who the Messiah came from, not where, who he came from. Oh, I know you don't want to hear that. See, but you got to separate from the system long enough to realize that you have a bad mentality. You have conformed. You are conformational, always having to worry about if somebody would confirm what you've been conformed to, but you are not transformational, to where the only person that should be able to conform to verify who you are is the one who had to help you to transform. You have become conformational. Everything's got to be confirmed. This is why we talked about earlier. See, I love this when the word of Yah just keeps flowing together. All these days we've been talking and talking and talking. How you doing, Crystal? Thanks for being on. See, watch this. Come on, beloved. Stay with me. Come on, Yehavada. Stay with me. Come on, Yehavada. And stay with us. Right? You ready for this? Watch this. You are, praise Yah. You are so busy in getting into this stuff, right? And you don't realize who you are and who and why that matters, right? Even having to be transformed. We've been talking about separation really this whole week and saying the same thing over and over again, and talking about that you have to begin to even preach who you are. Who shall believe our report? Uh-oh. That's what it says. Everybody always goes Romans 10:13. I'm sorry, Romans 10 verse 9. And that's great. Nobody talks about Romans 10:10. You got to be on your way to righteousness, that's right, lawful standing, and on your way to salvation. That means you got to be salvaged. You got to get back to your original intent, right? But even once we get past that, we don't want to talk about Romans chapter 10 verses 13 through 16. What does that say? And we end up saying that at least once every live session. Anyone who calls upon the name of the Lord, they shall be saved. But how can one be saved if they don't believe? And how can one believe what they've never heard? And how can one hear what is not being preached? And how can it be preached if they're not sent? Because how beautiful are the feet of those who are what? Followers of the way, who walk in the way. Therefore, verse 16, he quotes Isaiah, Yesaiah. Paul quotes Isaiah. Pavel, he quotes Yesaiah, and he says, who shall believe our report? Who it comes from is important. Who it comes from is important. When people say, how do you speak? And sometimes it seems like you're not even a woman, but you seem to talk about things that women go through, because I've listened to women. You said, now that we proclaim who we are, they're asking for proof. And they didn't need proof before to tell us that we weren't who we were and to tell us that we had nothing, right? Hear what I'm saying? Hear what I'm saying now? Who shall believe our report? That means that there's got to be significance to it. If I talk to you about a woman and talk about 6 basic human needs, and that women's number 1 and number 2 need are pretty much always going to be security and affection. Do they feel secure and do they get affection? If they can get those number 1 and number 2 down, they're usually going to be okay with giving you your number 1 and number 2 need as a man. Number 1 for a man is going to be respect. Number 2 is going to be sex. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but that's real, right? Because a man is designed to keep giving seed. I'm not saying that a man should only be looking at you for sex only, but that's one of the reasons why lust and stuff is usually more promiscuous when it comes to men than it is for women, and it's more in our face. Why? Because it's a need, because men are designed to give seed until the day they die. If they stop giving seed, if they stop having blood flow that causes an erection, guess what that means? That means they are not healthy. I don't care if they're 175, they should still be able to give seed. If not, they are not healthy. Matter of fact, some of the things that they don't want to tell you about in some of these nursing homes and stuff is that you have men who still give seed, but the seed leaks out and it doesn't come out of a healthy erection, and people have to actually help them with that. I won't go too much further into that, but I'm just trying to tell you, this is a health issue. They were created for this. If they were created for this, then they need it, believe it or not. But you would not have the problem with it if you were, how you doing, Apostle Yeoman? You would not have a problem with it if you were separated from the world and you were separated from them in your own marriage, to where your husband was always giving you what? Security and affection. And right? See, a sister, she needs those. See, that's just because those needs are not her number one and number two need. It doesn't mean the sister doesn't want respect, and it definitely doesn't mean that the sister does not want sex, right? But she gets into sex because of her number one and number two need. I need you to separate from the world and stop acting like she's supposed to just bow down, and she's supposed to be like that chicken head who basically just gets on her knees and starts bobbing her head back and forth, and that's all you think that she is, right? If she would give you more and try more things in the bedroom than you ever thought she would, if you would give her security and affection. This is security. Security is that I'm going to be your spiritual father. I'm going to operate in the manner in which you are taken care of. I don't have to pay every single bill, right? I'm not even saying you got to pay all the bills, but I'm going to make sure that you're secure. I'm going to make sure that you got the kitchen that you desire. I'm going to make sure that you look a certain way. I'm going to make sure that I tell you you're beautiful, right? But that's going into affection. Now watch this. Some of you don't even realize this is one of the, and sisters, you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm talking about stuff that you guys have taught me, right? I'm gonna tell you what you guys have taught me, right? And what I've listened to sisters say, and even sisters who were off, I still listen to see where their hurt was coming from, right? But what you guys have taught me over the years, see, watch this. Affection sex with a woman starts with affection. She's secure already, and then mess around and give her some affection. See what happens. You see, I'm gonna just give you some stuff from my personal when I was still doing a 9 to 5, right? Right. I'm gonna just give you some stuff from when I was doing security. I still do, or not working security, but I was, providing security, but still doing so through a 9 to 5. Right. Wake up in the rising. I would still get ready to do the live session before I would go to my job, or then it turned into a side hustle or whatever. I would make sure that I talk to my wife and say I love you, and I would kiss her in the cheek. And there's certain things that I say to her that I don't say to anybody else, and we say it in a certain language so that it's something that only she gets from me, no matter what. I don't say this to anybody else. Even if I'm teaching the language, I don't say it to anybody else. I might teach people how to say it. I don't say it to anybody else, right? So then after that, maybe even give a massage, right? Even if I'm the one, like one time, like at one point I'm working in the warehouse, my feet are hurting, my back's hurting, but I'm gonna give you the massage. I'm gonna give you the back massage. I'm gonna give you the foot massage. I'm gonna whisper sweet nothings in your ear. I'm gonna play music you like to listen to during the massage, even though it's not even necessarily my cup of tea, right? I'm gonna honor you, and I'm gonna say things great about you in the live session. I'm gonna go to my job. When I get a 15-minute break, I'm gonna call you. Hey, babe, I'm just letting you know that I love you. I don't have too much time. I gotta, I'm gonna go ahead and just lay down here and stuff. But I just wanted to talk to you and hear your voice, because we used to do that when we first got together. See, now all of a sudden you don't want to do it no more. Then I get a 30-minute break. Either she's gonna come where I am and we're gonna eat, or I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna FaceTime her and we're gonna talk to each other on FaceTime. We're gonna look each other in the eye. We're gonna talk. I'm gonna be eating. My son will probably be there, even on FaceTime as well. We're gonna have a family dynamic. I want you to know I put you before everything else. This job does not come before you. It supports you, but it doesn't come before you. Then I get another 15 minutes, last 15 minutes. Maybe I call again. Maybe I just text. I'm thinking about you. I only got this. This is how my day is going. Because you know what, man, we don't need to get the run through all the time of how your day is going, but she might need it. So every once in a while, let me tell you how my day went, this and that, so you can feel like you were right there with me. She might give me some texts and stuff and say, okay, but we went here and we went shopping here and all this stuff. That you'd be like, why are you giving me all this information? It's because you are usually, as a man, you're going to usually be more introverted. She's usually going to be more extroverted, but the two have to go together. So let me go ahead and let her be extroverted. Then by the time I make it back home, guess what? Because I did those things, I was thinking about her all day. When she went to the store, guess what she went to the store thinking about? This is what Kofi's favorite dinner is. Let me go ahead and get that and have it ready when he gets back. She might say, hey, your dad just got home. Children running up, hey, daddy, 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 daddy. So let him, okay, go ahead, get hugs and get this or whatever. She gives you a kiss. Hey, how was your day? She already been talking to me about my day, but this is something that that she likes to do. She's connected in this way. She's created for this. So she says, how was your day? This and that. I say, okay, this and that. She says, no problem. She knows that I'm extroverted, not just only as a man. I'm actually pretty extroverted. People don't know this until they meet me. I actually like to kind of step away a little bit and be quiet some. So then she goes, okay, no problem. And then she said, all right, look, let's eat together. All right, once we finish eating together, look, go ahead, take your water, take your drink, whatever you're going to do, go somewhere, chill out, relax, chill out 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you got to do. All right, cool. And then I come out of that, I make sure I spend some time with the children. I make sure I spend some time doing some stuff. Maybe I do some stuff around the house, even though I'm tired, right? And then guess what? You think after all that your wife is not going to want to give you your needs? And by the way, I was giving her security and affection. She's been giving me respect. And now guess what number 2 is? The sex. Now, I'm not going to tell you what happens behind the bedchamber, but what I'm trying to tell you is some of you guys are so busy just saying because she's a woman, she should bow down. Where if you just gave her what she, as a woman, is created to need, if you gave her needs, then you would get your needs. She wants respect and she wants sex too, but she's her respect for you and giving sex to you is activated by her getting what? By her getting security and affection. And sisters, the same thing. So you got to separate from this worldly mentality. Sisters out here, well, men ain't doing this, and men should just give me this. Respect your husband. Matter of fact, some of you respect me more than you respect your husband. And if you're doing so, especially if your husband is in the word. Now, if he's in the world, I get it, but still, I'm not your husband. But I want you to hear me. If your husband is at least doing what he's supposed to do and he's getting better and he's trying, first thing you should be doing is making sure that you respect him all day, every day. Watch this. Do you know what a man does to anything? I didn't say any person. We got to separate this in your mind. Hallelujah. I wish we had more time. It's a Saturday. We don't go as long on Saturdays as we normally do. But you're going to learn today. You're going to walk away with something different today. Praise God. Right? Do you know what any man will do for anything that respects him? I didn't say any person. You will get more than the thing. But hear what I'm saying. Do you know what a man will do for anything that respects him? He will secure it and he will give it affection. No, that doesn't make sense. These men don't do. So you haven't learned how to activate the security and the affection. Watch this. I've had a beat up 90-something Dodge Neon in 2003, 2003. Beat up Dodge Neon, paint falling off of it, all this stuff or whatever. Guess what though? It got me to and from my duty station. And since it got me to and from my duty station, guess what I did faithfully? It got the oil changed faithfully. It got sparks and everything changed faithfully. It had the wheels, the rims, the car itself was washed. Even though there was no paint on the hood, didn't matter. It was going to be washed faithfully. And I was going to put wax, even though there was no paint on the top of it. I was going to give it the full treatment. Why? Because it was faithful. It helped me to get from point A to point B. It's not called submission, but it's called submission. Don't submit to the man, but submit to the mission. If you submit to my mission, then I must take care of the vehicle. I did not eat inside the vehicle. I kept it clean inside the vehicle. The vehicle looked so great on the inside and smelled great and all that stuff. I sewed into it. Why? Because it supported my mission. It had the same mission that I had. And even though it is not sentient, it needed to be taken care of. You said you were a sniper from TikTok. I was a sniper from TikTok saying you are the father of the devil. That wasn't towards Kofi. He's quoting the verse. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see it. Oh, you were sniped from TikTok? Okay, I didn't see it. Well, hopefully you weren't blocked or something like that. But if you're muted or whatever, I'll try to look into it. Thank you for coming over, letting me know. All right. You hear what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm saying? What's the name, by the way, Lobo? Right. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like these are things that you have to realize and recognize. Right? Like we are not separate enough from the world. So we're listening to all these things, but still coming in with worldly values. You're trying to make a marriage work, and you have not had anybody tell you something as simple as, hey, respect that man. I didn't say bow down and be a doormat. See, if you respect the man, you respect him enough to tell him when he's wrong too. But my greatness, at least tell him every once in a while when he's all right, when he's correct. How you doing, Brother Charles? At least tell him every once in a while when he's correct. You hear what I'm saying? Like, watch this. 7 assemblies, Revelation chapter 2, Revelation chapter 3. He starts off. Before he says, I have something against thee, what's the first thing he said? You said that's fantasy? Okay. Well, for those of us that are decades in and teach others how to be decades in, right? We live in a fantasy world to you then. But see, what's virtual to you has become our reality. But for those of you who actually want to go somewhere, and by the way, this is why we talk about it all the time. See, you're trying to go on dates. Dating is not even in your culture, at least not biblical. If you say the Bible, the Christian values of your culture, that's not even biblical, right? You're supposed to know what a husband and wife is before marriage. See, in our culture, you got to realize what a husband or wife is before marriage, right? Even when it talks about Ephesians 5:22 and 25, if you look up those words, it's talking about those are titles that you give somebody before marriage. See, in your culture, you think that you're supposed to make sure that before you drive, you have a license. You think that you're supposed to say before you get your hair done, somebody's license. Before somebody cuts your hair, you have a license. Before somebody tattoos you, you have a license, right? Before a doctor, even though you don't have to have a license, you have to pass the test. But before you're a doctor, right, you got to pass the test, pass the bar, right? Before you're a lawyer, you got to pass the bar. But when it comes to marriage, you have nothing to go off of. And then you keep going to these things and you don't pass. You don't do very well. I'm waiting for the name. I haven't gotten the name yet. So yeah, they didn't give me the name. But thank you, appreciate it, right? So I'm just trying to tell you, right, that you're going through something and don't even realize what we're talking about. So you say that's fantasy. That's fantasy. It's not fantasy. This is reality, but see, it's not your reality. And so, since you've never seen it or you've never secured it, and there, right, you've never secured your wife, you've never given affection to your wife, and therefore you were with a woman or a little girl in wife's clothing. See, not every woman is a wife. Every wife must go through being a woman, but not every woman has obtained the level of wife. And what's really supposed to happen is before she becomes your wife, she's supposed to be the Most High's wife. If she knows how to be a wife to the Most High, you're a step down. I know you think that you are the Most High. If she knows how to be a wife to the Most High, you're a step down. You're gonna be easy work. You're gonna be light work. Oh, you don't want to hear that. See, if I know how to be the Most High's wife, then I can start talking to my wife about, hey, you might want to get up on level because in order to be the Most High's wife, I got to be up. Remember, we talked about if you're going to be separate, some people try to stay in the same place, and you're trying to stay at the same place, doing the same thing, getting the same result, acting like you're supposed to get the same thing that some of us are doing to get decades in. See, if I know what it is to be Yahweh's wife spiritually, then I know how to treat my wife physically, because the way that Yah treats me spiritually, I must treat her both spiritually and physically. If she knows how to be Yah's wife and treat her husband a certain way, then it means that she's going to treat me a certain way because she has habits now. Oh, that is the name. Oh, you. That was you. Lobo 07103. Oh, no. Yeah. You think it just shows up as a number? Okay, I don't know. You have to give me the number, right? Maybe you can text it to me, DM me. Information is in the chat or the description with the video, right? See, exactly. You got to have a new standard that you're understand, and all you're getting, get an understanding. How you doing using 456? Right? If you're so busy, she got to respect. She got to respect. She doesn't respect. She doesn't respect. You don't comprehend. You don't get it, Pastor. She doesn't respect. 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 She does, and I hear it over and over. She doesn't respect. She doesn't respect. And I hear it over and over. She doesn't respect. She doesn't respect. She doesn't respect. Where does she feel secure? Because Yah secures her. If she had a father, if she had a real father, right? If she had a daddy who was her father, then daddy secures her. Right? I know you don't think about this, but you're getting a spiritual daughter. If you're going to be a pastor, you desire a great work. 1 Timothy chapter 3. But first be the husband of one wife. Some of y'all are ready to preach the word to others, and you don't preach it in your own house. You don't live it in your own house. You got to separate from the world long enough. If I separate from Yah, that's what's called hell. If I'm going through hell, I got to see if I'm separated from Yah, and maybe I need to do a about face so I can repent and start walking in his ways and start getting his results. Right? Because if I'm separated from the world, I'm in the kingdom. If I'm separated from the kingdom, I'm in the world. The Holy Spirit gave me this earlier. I would be remiss, I would be wrong if I didn't make sure that I said this to you, right? Holy Spirit told me today that many of you have heard it saying, even though it's not written in scripture, but it makes sense, right? But many of you have heard it saying, if you take one step towards Yah, then what? Then he'll take 2 steps towards you. That's what you heard, right? Okay, many of you have heard that. The Holy Spirit told me to remind you today, though, if you take 1 step out the world, you must be in the kingdom. But if you're not careful, you can take 1 step out of the kingdom and be in the world. It just takes 1 false step. Did you catch that? Okay, I'll try to see if I can look for that later, okay? Okay, Lobo? I'll try to see if I can look for that later. All right. I just took a screenshot. That's what that that was. All right. I haven't seen you on there when I was looking through you, so it takes me a while sometimes to find somebody. Right. Amen. See, all it takes is 1 false step, and see, that's why I said earlier. Remember the cupcake wrapper? I got to take the cupcake wrapper off. If you're not careful, the cupcake wrapper can look like it's the cupcake. Matter of fact, that's supposed to be part of the design, is to make you believe that the wrapper actually is the cupcake. And just because it forms and shapes some of the cupcake, and we can see that there must have been a wrapper on you, it doesn't mean you're supposed to eat the wrapper. It can be this close. It can be thinly veiled to where you think that you're doing it right. See, there's a way that seems right to a man. What's the rest of that verse say, somebody? There's a way that seems right to a man. There's a way that seemeth right. That means it continuously seems right to a man. But the end thereof are the ways of death. Oh, thank you, Sister Shima. Appreciate it. How you doing, Forever Young? There is a way that seemeth right to a man, but at the end of it is just death. Proverbs 14, verse 12, I believe. Right? Even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful. You can be laughing and still not realize your passions are actually, you're still full of sorrow. Later on, it says the backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways. If you backslide, you'll be filled with your own ways. It seems like it works. It seems like it makes sense. So a lot of people argue what seems to be correct, but it's not. Right? We talked this before. Oh yeah, what's the capital of the United States of America? Washington, D.C. By law, Washington, D.C. is not a capital. Matter of fact, it's not even a territory. And why? Because the United States can't have a capital, because the United States is a corporation. It's not a country. Look up law. 28, this is United States Code, 28 USC 300215 A, B, and C. So subsection A, B, and C tell you the United States is a corporation. It's a board. That's why you have presidents, vice presidents, secretary, treasurers, congress members, all that. They're part of a board. And then it also is publicly traded. Right? But there's a way that seemeth right to a man, and we put what men say above what Yah says. This is why you have a straw man. What is a straw man? Straw man comes from property law. In order to have a straw man, you must be considered to be property, but you don't know any better. You have not separated from the system long enough. You have not separated long enough. Uh-oh. You're not separated from the system long enough to even think that what I'm saying is something that you should look into. A lot of people would just turn it off. Oh, here it is. Here's somebody. They don't know what they're talking about. Somebody said what we were talking about yesterday was stupid. And they wouldn't just look up a dictionary. They wouldn't even look up a law dictionary. Look for yourself, but you have to separate long enough and stop being conformational, being conformed, and having somebody confirm what you've been conformed into, and being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Everybody, isn't it interesting that everybody wants to be transformed by the renewing of lopping off their breasts with mastectomies or vagioplasty or phalloplasty or something like that, whatever the other one is called. And everybody wants to get hormonal therapy, but nobody wants to transform the mind. People talking about, I have multiple, now people are excited about it and putting it on social media. All of us in my mind, most of us in my mind have agreed we're going to do this. So we're going to go ahead and go this way. I'm so glad, because today, everybody in my mind, all the voices in my head, you got legion up in your head and are excited about it. There's a way that seems right, but it's causing some issues. How you doing, King Galvin? Thanks for being part of the community, Blake. You said you doing your vision. Come on, right? All right, here we go. What was that you put up there earlier, Minister Tamara? I'm sorry, I think you put up Proverbs 16, 25, and 26. Hopefully that's what you put up there. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you were saying the same thing, right? There's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. He that laboreth for himself, for his mouth craveth it of him. That's another place where it says the same thing. But this time, watch the second verse that goes with it. He that laboreth for himself, for his mouth craveth it of him. There are some of you that are laboring for things. You're working 9 to 5s and doing things like that for yourself. For yourself. And since you do it for yourself, what? Your mouth craveth it of you. You are speaking all this stuff and everything. You crave it till you crave everybody. You talk about yourself, talk about this. You know, one of the things I find when our brothers become, and respect to our elders, of course, but when they get to be of a certain age, one thing that I found is that our brothers, when they get to a certain age and they feel like they failed, or they feel like they haven't done what they're supposed to do, or they feel like they haven't raised their children correctly, etc. One of the things that I find is that a lot of brothers will start telling me stories. You know, in 1980s, I used to work at this place and I used to do this. Now it's 2023, but you still telling me about 1985. Or they'll start saying, in 1970, Kofi, I really had it going together, right? That's the last time they might remember being healthy, right? They work themselves crazy for something that doesn't even serve them now. It's not eternal. It doesn't even serve their children. It's not eternal. You said some people are satisfied at moving with the crowd instead of walking the straight path. Yeah. Right. And they did everything everything that they thought was cool or would get them stuff in the moment. But I hear them. I'm telling you, I do life coaching. I talk to people of all ages. I talk to people in my family. I talk to people around the world. I talk to some of you virtually. I talk to some of you in person. And I'll hear brothers start telling me, yeah, and I can tell where a brother is in his life. If everything that he starts saying is all about 5, 10 years old, that means that he's kind of getting to a place to where he's separate from things that are still moving. And if it gets to be about 80s, 80s, if it gets to be about 20 years old, 30 years old, he's pretty stagnant. If he starts talking about when he was in his 20s, he has not found value in his life for decades now. And I'm not saying we should never look back at the past at all. What I'm saying is I can tell where you are just by what you say, what you talk, what comes out of your mouth. What's coming out your mouth, it says a lot. See, if I hear a sister and she's always telling me, you know what, man, you don't, all these men out here, and she starts describing stuff, and I say, well, what are your relationships like? She's like, you know what, I ain't even been in a relationship for like 15 years because of this and that. And I start thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute, 15 years. Her son is like 20, 30 years old. She keeps talking about this, that, whatever, and all men, da, 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 da. And like, she's stuck on one man. If I try, I can't say it to her like that because then I get yelled at, right? We have to have a conversation. But I'm just be honest with you. I start saying to myself, she's still stuck on somebody who hurt her, and we need to help her with that hurt, and we need to empathize, but we can't let her stay in the same place. At some point, she got to come out. See, because we talked about this term before, nostalgic trauma. Just because it's nostalgic doesn't mean it's not traumatic. And a lot of people are living off of nostalgia that hurts you. Come on, somebody. Hallelujah. Praise God. It's all right. I know you don't like it, but you're going to get it today. You're going to get a healthy serving. It might not be what you came to get served, but you're going to get a healthy serving today so you can be whole. People are stuck at a place, right? And guess what you're going to have to do to get out of it? I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. I've been somebody who's been labeled as clinically depressed. I'm not here to tell you that depression is something you just jump out of. I respect the walk that you must take. There are some times where things that are still in my mind that have happened over 20 years ago, I got to go back and I got to make sure that I'm not living in it still today, right? My mother passed away over 20 years ago. 2.5 years later, somebody had to say, I think you're depressed. 5 years after that, I had to basically end up in actually maybe 7 years after that, I had to end up in what you would call a mental institution. And I checked myself in, because I was still dealing with some stuff, especially at that point where somebody did me really dirty and got me put in prison for something that I didn't even do. How you doing, WIT? Right? And so if I wasn't careful, Or what was happening is I was living in trauma every day, but then giving some scripture and acting like giving scripture while I was living in trauma didn't mean I was living in trauma anymore. So I had to learn how to come out of that. I had to learn that it was all right to come out of that. I had to learn that that does not define me anymore, right? I'm the first person, once again, I don't mind. I'm the first person, if you want to talk about racism, I'll give you stuff accurate, contextual facts all day, every day, right? But I'm not waiting on reparations because I got to do reparations in here first. They keep promising you something that they're not going to give you, right? Because they can't give reparations to you if you're not a nation. So anything they're giving to you and you're not a nation, it means it's not going to be reparations, right? And now they're talking about giving you money when they're about to get rid of cash anyways, right? But y'all want to hang on to that, that's fine. You have every right to. I'm not saying we don't deserve reparations. What I'm saying is I can't live my life based off of when they tell me it's all right to be repaired. You know that word reparations, that P-A-R-E in there, it's not P-A-I-R to be two. It's P-A-R-E. It means to be cut. If you're going to give me something, you're cutting something aside for me. You're preparing something. You're pre-cutting something for me. And if you have shown that you will not prepare, matter of fact, if the reparations is you'll still be in the same places, you'll still live in the same places, you'll still do the same things. We're just going to give you some money. Or in the Carolina, that's in Cali, right? In Carolinas before that, it was, we won't give you a bunch of money, but we'll go in, kind of sort of 50-50 with you, and we'll make money off of the business and stuff that you do, but we'll let you start the businesses, but it's still going to be us invested in stuff. You're not actually preparing a place for me anyways. See, reparations though, something that's cut aside for me, you might not think about it like this, but now that you've got it, how you doing, Lenora? You might not think about it like this, but now that you kind of, sorry, Lenora, I was just scrolling through, you don't have to come on. You might not think about it like this. How you doing, Royal? But now that you comprehend, it's pre-cut. Reparations, we are recutting something. We're repairing something. P-A-R-E. So if you're thinking about it correctly now, how you doing, Barry? Then we are repairing. We are recutting. Well, here's something that's recut for you already. Beloved, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in the Father, also believeth in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. A mansion, by the way, is not a big house. A mansion is an add-on to the Father's house, right? When we get married in our culture, the wife goes and prepares herself. The husband goes to his father's property and starts to build on to what his father already has, so that him and his wife can be able to be there with their family, and they can help them to learn what it is to be husband and wife all over again. And other family members can come there to help them with children and stuff. And after that, all the stuff that the husband, who was already qualified as a husband, that son had already been out there doing his father's business somewhere else, then eventually they can go back to the son's property and live there together. Right? But beloved, believe not, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in the Father, also believe in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. Right? I go to prepare a place for thee, that where I am, there you will be also. How you doing, Minister Tamal? Right? That where I am, you will be there with me also. Praise Yah. Right? He's already pre-cut it. He's already prepared it. He's already repaired it. He's already paired it. He's already cut it for you. And then he says, but it would be enough if that was all there was, because a lot of us do that. We think that's all there is, right? Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. A lot of us think that's all there is to it. But he said, no, I'm also going to leave with you the comforter. Some of you say Ruach, right? The Holy Spirit. She'll be there. And if that wasn't enough, you would say, wow, that's great. He said, no, I'm not finished yet. He said, those of you that are meek, you shall inherit the earth. Now, not just even the physical earth now, but even the earth, that the new heaven and earth. See, everybody else is going to pass away as the heaven and earth before pass away. But the word of Yah and those who were faithful to the word, they shall remain. And when the new heaven in Revelation 22, I believe it is, meets with the new earth, you're going to inherit it, right? But you can inherit those things today because why? Because if that wasn't enough, come on, somebody. If that wasn't enough, the kingdom of heaven, it is in you which means that anything that the kingdom should have should be something that's already in you. That's why you have vision, because the kingdom is in you. That's why you had a business model, because the kingdom is in you. That's why you have being a husband or wife, and what a husband and wife should connect to you in, it's already there because it should already be in you. See, we're not trying to go ahead and get you to recall anything. We're trying to get you to remember something. See, you were a member of something, it was cut off. You were a member of something, it was cut off. It was dismembered. Somebody found it though, put it on ice, took you to the hospital, made sure they wrapped it together, made sure it was everything was sewn together. You had to have it set, and you couldn't move for a while. But then all of a sudden, when you got it back together and you went through some physical therapy and stuff, now, even if it's not exactly the same as it was, you're starting to what? You have become a member of the body again. You have remembered. You have remembered. You have come back into membership. Hallelujah, somebody. You have come back into membership. How you doing, little ducky? Thanks for being on. You have come back into the kingdom. You have come out of the world, little children. Yahshua said, I have conquered the world. I have overcome the world. Excuse me. I have overcome the world. You are more than a conqueror. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Are you ready for this? Right? Are you ready for this? More than conquerors? I say this all the time. We got to get ready to take our leave because we got to get ready for the podcast. It's Shabbat, and we do our Shabbat Shalom service, right? And I may or may not have to step in this week, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm prepared. To kind of just go over the notes real quick before we get ready to go on there. I won't be that long. And then of course we got our stuff for our children. And of course, for those who are in Georgia, we got the meetup. And then those of you who are doing your minister and training, you got your first session today. Praise Yah. And then maybe somewhere in there we might be able to, I might, hopefully you guys support Minister Tamar after that, and then maybe I'll try to do a little quick something somewhere in there somehow, some way, right? So I got some stuff to take care of, but I want to leave you with this. You are kings and queens. You are royalty, are you not? Are you not? You are kings and queens. If you're a king, if you're a queen, you're royalty. If you're a king or queen, you're royalty. How you doing, Sister Iska? I want to remind you of something, though. Even in your royal status, remember, I say it all the time, royalty does not have common sense because you're not a commoner. Did you hear what I just said? Royalty does not have common sense. You're not a commoner. Remember, I told you earlier, it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. Even in these movies you've watched. I never even really watched the movie, but what's that old school movie, cartoon, Anastasia? I don't know if you've seen it or watched it with your children or heard about it. Anastasia is supposed to be based off of royalty that was missing, Russian royalty that was missing. That should have been the queen, czar, whatever she's supposed to be, right? And she doesn't know that she's royalty. She's lived in a place separated from it. You might even think that she lived in poverty. It doesn't mean that she's not royalty, though. Once you found out who she came from, then you can start being who you're supposed to be. Doesn't matter where you are. Somebody says, I can't separate from the system. You don't know. And this and that. If you don't separate now, you won't start. You won't stop doing common things. Another movie. Maybe y'all are more familiar with this one, especially some old school family up in this piece. Sleeping Beauty, Disney. And yes, I know Disney and Wicked and all this stuff. Hear what I'm saying? Sleeping Beauty, right? Based off Tchaikovsky's, or Tchaikovsky's piece thrown in there, right? Disney movie Sleeping Beauty. Aurora is a baby. Maleficent. She shows up. Y'all didn't invite me. Y'all tripping. Something small, too. It's always something small. Y'all tripping. You ain't invite me out here, this and that or whatever. Okay, I see what it is. You're going to put this girl, and I'm tired of seeing y'all. Y'all ain't really in charge of anything. Now you ain't going to invite me to the party? All right. I'm a curse her. Right? Was it on her 16th birthday or 17th birthday, whatever? She going to prick her finger, and she going to be unalived. They said we got to separate her from who she is in order for her to not get her finger pricked. At the end, though, even when they try to separate, but guess what? In the midst of all that, she might have thought she was poor, but she was really rich. Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. Come on, right? You might, I know your tribulations. I know what you're going through. I know that you think that you are poor, but really are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those that say they are Yashra'al, that say they are you and really are not. And yes, you're going to have to go through being in prison. You're going to have to go through being locked up and all. But if you can make it 10 days, right? And especially days, I could go so many different ways with that. We don't have time. But if you can make it through the amount of time you got to go through, it's already referenced. You will go through this. But if you come out, there's a crown waiting on you. And then he messes around and tell you in Revelation chapter 3, verse 9, the next chapter over, right? We didn't even get into Revelation 2:6, Revelation 2:9, into Revelation 2:14, Revelation 2:15, Revelation 3:7 through 9. But let's just go to, for the sake of making sure that we can end on time, Revelation chapter 3, verse 9. You get to Revelation chapter 3, verse 9, and what you discover there is that you'll actually see, hallelujah, you'll actually see in Revelation chapter 3, verse 9, that it says, once again, I know the blasphemy of those that say they are Israel and say they are Yahweh the Ain, and really are not, but are really the synagogue of the Satan. That's what he said in Revelation 2:9 as well, if I didn't add that little part in there. And he says, I'm going to have it to where these people are going to come and learn how to worship at your feet. What does that mean? See, to be at somebody's feet means that they are taught by you. This is why you bow down when you worship. You bow down when you worship because that's the teacher of teachers. Just, I sit at people's feet all the time. That means I learn from other people. That's what that means, right? He says, "Ye will sit at your feet and learn how true worship happens." And he said, "I will show the world, the beast, the system that I have always loved you." Are you willing to separate and go through something right now so that you can see the glory revealed? Romans chapter 8, verse 18. Now the suffering of this present time is not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall yet be revealed. Wait a minute. So I'm suffering here, but there's glory coming. And suffering means a choice, right, Minister Tam? And suffering means a choice. How you doing, Aswad? I have the choice. I have the free will. I will bless the Lord at all times. That means as a result of my will. I might not feel like it, but I will. You got to separate. I might not like what's about to happen when I separate, but I will. You got to separate. It might not feel great to humble myself when I'm being yelled at by my spouse for something I didn't even do, and then say all that and say, okay, babe, I can see why you feel like that. Now that you said that, allow me to introduce the actual facts to you. Instead of cussing them out. I might not like it, but I will. That's what I signed up for. And like we talked about last night, I'm going, like we said, yeah, let your love rain down on us. Let your love rain down. We said that last night, right? We prayed about that. We went out and did a whole impromptu prayer and worship service because of that, right? And when we said it, that means you got to let it. Are you willing to suffer now so that you'll see and therefore receive later? Are you willing to separate now so that you can receive what happens in separation? Because I know somebody told you this, that everybody is a child of the Most High, but there's no scripture to support it. This walk is not for everybody. I'm sorry, some of your family might not make it in. I have no heaven or hell to put anybody in, but I can tell you what he said. Not everybody gonna make it. I'm sorry to tell you, look, it's saddening. And because you have a heart of Yah, because it's not his will that any would perish, but all would have everlasting life. But everybody has free will. And some people have said, unfortunately, I will not obey. There are some people out there who have said, I will not obey. I just won't. Some people have decided that I will be in the Balaam doctrine and I will listen to people that are literally giving gold. That's what Balaam doctrine means in Revelation 2:14 and in Numbers 22, 23, 24. When you're warned about it, you got to go back to Numbers to see what it's telling you in Revelation, even though you think that New Testament and Old Testament is a real thing, although somebody wrote old over that part and new over that part. And so you just go off of what man changed it into. But see, I will. There's some people said, I will not be into stuff. I will support Balaam doctrine. Some people have already decided I will. There are people, watch this. No offense. This is not, look, just for educational purposes only. This is not saying every LGBTQ plus person feels this way. Did you hear me? This is recorded. So if somebody lies and we got to come find you later after we got to go through TikTok lawyers. We do this quite often. If I got to go against, go to TikTok lawyers and then come back over here. That's why we got 4 channels, because we got to constantly, consistently deal with this stuff and battle, right, legally. So I'm just making it clear to you. If you got to be somebody who we got to deal with eventually, so be it. But I want you to just not even go through all that and just listen for a second. I'm not saying all LGBTQ plus members feel this way. That's not true. That's not a true statement. However, we must admit that there are LGBTQ plus members walking around with rainbows, saying we're coming for your children, and literally putting Satan on the rainbow and saying that Satan blessed you with this today, not God. I'm not making this up. Look it up for yourself. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? Right? Study to show yourself approved. Then bring it before Elohim, that you can be a workman that need not be ashamed, right? To divide the word of truth. See, I'm not ashamed of what I'm saying because I'm giving you the truth. I didn't say every LGBTQ plus person. Did I? Right? This is where you mess up. Everybody who has a sin must all be doing the same exact thing, and some of them are not there, right? Are those scriptures posted? Once again, you're looking at Revelation chapter 2 and verse 14. That's where it talks about Balaam doctrine. Revelation 2:14. And if you want to know what it's warning you about in Revelation 2:14, you have to read Numbers 22, 23, and 24. Revelation 2:14 and in Numbers 22, 23, 24. And if you want to even know the result of it, go into 25. All right. Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, Numbers 22, 23, 24. Right. And so we must realize that people are straight up telling you. Some people are less ignorant than others. Some people are telling you straight up, this is, we worship Satan, or the Satan, excuse me. Right. We worship. That's what they say. They say they worship the Satan. Hello, Grand Rising to you, Sister Maya. Maya. Well, I don't know how you pronounce the last name, right? I'll say Kusi or Kusai, right? So I'm just trying to tell you that you got to separate long enough. If you don't separate long enough, you're not going to see it. Fasting is separation, but even when I fast, I digest. What happens if you do a 40-day fast? Your body begins to eat itself, or eat the things that have been sitting in there for years that should have not even been in there. It has to eat fat away. It has to eat scars away. It has to eat old food that's been there for sometimes 5, 10 years. You'd be surprised that some of you have food that's in your belly from years ago. It has to eat legions. It has to eat, or right? It has to eat cancer cells. It has to eat fibroid cyst, because you're not constantly feeding it so much new information that you haven't had time to digest what's been given to you already to figure out what needs to stay and what needs to go. Now, when you fast too long, that's a problem, because you start eating off of muscles and other things, but your body starts looking for anything that is not necessary to the process. Do you hear what I'm saying? Separate. It's okay. Separate. And if you separate and everybody's mad at you, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're not eating. I don't have to be fed by my family to eat. When I'm fasting, I'm still eating. I don't have to be fed by the government to be able to survive. I'm telling you, I'm not fed by the government at all. I once was heavily fed by the government. I was in the military. I know what it is to be all the way up in there, being with the 4 stars, 3 stars, meeting people who are in charge of other nations all the time, stuff like that. I know what that is, and I know what it is to be completely separate and to come to you guys on location from a new place as we're traveling around, trying to make sure that our people are okay. How much is too long of a fast? It depends on your body. I mean, some people are prepared to fast for 3 days right now, but uh, I don't have time for that because we got to get ready to go into the day. But I'd say 40 days, if you got yourself together, is probably great enough. Some people have fasted 60 days. Um, at that point, you might be starting to get to the borderline, because if you fast for too long, what happens is your body will just eat off of itself, and your digestive system really won't be able to recover at all, right? Because it's actually a lot for you to eat again, especially if you're talking about fasting for days. Your body actually even goes through like an orgasmic experience. Like, it's very pleasurable to eat, especially if you're eating real food. But that's why some people are stuck on food. They give you high fructose corn syrup, and they give you fake sugar, and they give you all this stuff. They give you fat and things. They give you salt. They know that people that are angry, you're salty, so you get salt, right? People who are, if you go to a fast food restaurant, where you can always get fat, sugar, salt, right? So they give you fat. Fat is for people that don't feel loved or feel unprotected. Fat is what you build on to you in nature, right? Whenever something needs to protect itself or knows they're going to go a long time without eating, they think they're not going to receive love in human beings for a long time. What do? You eat. You see them eating ice cream in these movies and shows and stuff like that. They're going to give you fat, salt, and sugar, right? They studied us, but we have to fast from the world. And like I said, even when you're fasting, right, even spiritually, just because I'm not eating from you, just because I'm not eating at the family's table, it doesn't mean that Yah has not prepared a place for me in the presence of mine enemies, right? So I might not be eating. I might even eat at the enemy's table, but I'm not eating what the enemy gives me. How you doing, Sister Akita? So it is Saturday. Shabbat Shalom. Service needs to start on the Kofi 40 podcast. We'll do a very quick shout out, and then we got to get ready to switch over there. But we thank you guys so much for being on. We appreciate you. If you're on TikTok, we're going to do a shout out. If you've never done a shout out with us before, we think that you might like it and enjoy it. So stay with us. But once again, we give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all honor and praise to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank you all for being on today. We really appreciate you. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Hopefully something got to you. If you missed this, you can always find it on the YouTube channel. If you want to get in contact with us during the shout out, we'll explain how you can get in contact with us if you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, or if you're coming over from Facebook even. Look in the description with the video, and you'll be able to go ahead and contact us. And don't forget that classes are coming up. The next set of classes for second semester for the third quarter of this year, starting on the first Monday of August, or the last Monday of August, which is August 28th. Those who are in Georgia, we're looking forward to meeting you guys in Central Georgia. It's going to be in Macon. As a matter of fact, I told you I would tell you where it is at the end. I forget now. Oh, I can't pronounce it. It's the Omoki Omokluki. It's like OMCULGEE Mounds, MOUNDS. It's like OMCLGEE Mounds. That's where we'll be meeting. We'll be meeting at 3:00 p.m. There is a $5 charge per vehicle to be able to park. If you need help with that, just let me know as you're getting close to it. I'll make sure that I meet you and make sure that I take care of that. Or if you want me to just go ahead and refund you, if you spend $5, we'll make sure we take care of your $5. We will have fruit and we'll have water. And we'll pray for the weather. I believe it'll be acceptable. Even if not, there's a place that we can go inside over there if we want to go ahead and sit down and chill out. But prayerfully, everything will be all right for us to be outside and to connect. So we hope that you guys will attend. If you need the information, I'm going to put the information during the shout out up where you can contact us and connect with us. You can text us, you can email us. All right. So some of you should already have that information. If you try to DM me, I will try my best to look at the DMs, but I get so many DMs on all these different, we have 4 different TikTok channels, let alone YouTube, Facebook, etc., podcasts, all this stuff, and just text and email. So if you can text me, this probably be the best bet if you haven't gotten the information for where we're meeting. By the way, remember, I made sure, that's why I was late last night. I made sure I sent out a message last night where we were going to meet is not feasible for us because of some things I found out. So that's why we changed the meeting place to this place now. So it's going to be in Macon. I forget how to pronounce it or spell it. It's like OMULCGEE Mounds, MOUNDS. So if you can meet us there, we'd love to meet you. About 3 o'clock is the goal for us to meet. We'll be bringing fruit. We'll be bringing water. There's plenty of space and activities for anybody of any age to be part of what we're doing. And I think that you'll find it very fascinating. We'll be able to learn. And there is some walking and stuff like that, but we don't necessarily have to walk. It is going to be outside. I will say this. If you want to bring a blanket to sit down on, or maybe a folding chair. I don't have too many with me because I'm traveling. So if you want to bring a folding chair, some folding chairs, something like that, so you have a place to sit, or if you don't mind sitting in the grass, once again, if it's rainy, who knows if it's going to be muddy, maybe you want to bring a blanket, but we'll provide fruit, we'll provide water. And if you need help with the parking, I'll make sure that I take care of that for today. All right. So thank you. We appreciate you. How you doing, Sister Tori? No problem. To everybody, thanks for being on. And so we'll be there. Thank you so much, Minister Tamara. Thank you. So that's where we'll be meeting. She just put it in there. Thank y'all. We got to go do a quick shout out, and we'll get out. We'll go ahead and take our leave. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you guys for being on with us again. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, just that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. All right. Shabbat Shalom. Peace. To everybody who's still with us on TikTok, this is how the shout out works. It's very easy. Everybody who's still with us on